Imagine a world where, after a certain point, you just never die. Sounds like a dream, right? Eternal life, no more goodbyes, endless time to experience everything you've ever wanted to do. But here's the twist. While you stay alive forever, your body keeps aging and slowly deteriorating, piece by piece. Eventually, you're not just old, you're falling apart. And in the end, you're just a floating head, a talking skull, drifting through the centuries like a living relic of a long-forgotten era. Kind of a weird way to live forever, huh? So, how would this work, and what would our world look like if we all had to navigate this weird, head-only existence? Let's dive in. First of all, let's talk about what happens in the early stages. Imagine being 200 years old but still walking around looking more or less like your younger self, at least until you hit a certain age. Then things start to get a little creaky. Maybe it's your knees that go first, or your back starts throwing a tantrum every time you try to bend over. But hey, you're still around, right? You've still got your mind, your personality, your memories, and most importantly, you've got time. So, at first, it's a bit of a hassle, but you're still living. The biggest challenge, though, comes when you start noticing your body parts just aren't cutting it anymore. Sure, we've all imagined some sci-fi version of perfect immortality where we have shiny, ageless bodies, but that's not the deal here. Instead, your skin starts sagging, your bones get brittle, your organs start losing their oomph, and soon, you've got a whole bunch of prosthetics, robotic limbs, and maybe even a few synthetic organs just to keep you moving around. You'd end up in a world where medical advancements are dedicated less to saving lives and more to patching up the holes in people's bodies. A society full of people who are basically walking, talking cyborgs, trying to stay glued together with the best tech money can buy. And as the years go on, these fixes aren't enough. Your body continues to decline, no matter how many bionic limbs you strap on or how many pills you pop. Eventually, you reach the point where all you've got left is your head. That's it. The rest of your body, despite all the modern miracles of science, is just a wrinkly, useless shell. Maybe you've got a fancy exoskeleton to hold your head upright, or maybe you've just learned to levitate with a little help from technology. Regardless, the idea of being a floating head is no longer a metaphor. It's your reality. And while some people might think that the novelty of living forever would be thrilling, being stuck as just a brain in a jar, or more like a head on a hover pad, would quickly become, well, kind of a drag. Let's break it down. What would life be like if you were just a floating head in a society full of other floating heads? For one, there would be no such thing as casual activities anymore. Forget walking your dog or going to the gym. You can't even drink coffee without spilling it all over yourself. Hanging out with friends? Well, it's a little tricky when you can't really do anything physical anymore. Sure, you can chat about old memories and tell stories of the good old days when you could actually hold a cup, but after a while, that gets old. What do you do when your whole life is reduced to just conversation and mental stimulation? You'd probably start seeing floating head book clubs, floating head movie nights, floating head therapy sessions. Society would turn into one giant intellectual playground, but all the physical joy of life, traveling, playing sports, dancing, would become distant memories. Speaking of memories, let's talk about relationships. Love, family, and friendships are all built on connections, both emotional and physical. But if we're all just disembodied heads floating around, how do you sustain intimacy? It would be pretty difficult to hold someone's hand or hug them when you can barely move. And as time goes on, it's not just your body falling apart, it's also the world around you. Cities would age, tech would evolve, and entire generations of people would grow up, live, and die, while you're still there, your head bobbing through it all, watching the world change without ever really being able to participate in it. At first, you might find comfort in the idea that you have all the time in the world. You could learn a new language every century or master every instrument known to humanity. You'd be able to visit places you could never see before, just floating through the air, checking out the sights. But after a while, time would lose its meaning. Everything would become too eternal. Your friends would grow tired of hearing the same stories from the old days, and eventually, you'd be one of the few people left, surrounded by a world you no longer really feel a part of. You'd start thinking, Is immortality really worth it if it comes at the cost of everything that makes life meaningful? In the long run, this could lead to a deeper existential crisis. Living forever, watching loved ones age and die, while your body simply decays and disappears, would make you question what it means to be alive in the first place. Would you even still feel alive, or would you just be a sentient relic of the past, haunted by memories and desperately trying to hold on to the fleeting moments of joy? But maybe, just maybe, the upside to all of this is that you'd eventually stop worrying about things that used to matter so much. Money? Fame? They'd all become irrelevant. But there's also a bittersweet beauty to it. In this never-ending existence, you could be like a timeless observer, watching humanity's greatest triumphs and tragedies unfold. You'd see civilizations rise and fall, technologies that make today's world look like a stone age, and ideas that make your head spin. You'd be witnessing history, which, let's face it, has got to be pretty cool, even if you can't really do anything about it. In the end, living forever as a decaying body that's just a head may not sound like the ideal immortality. But maybe that's the price we'd have to pay for eternal life. It's a weird, strange existence, but at least you'd never have to say goodbye. You'd just keep on floating through it all, thinking, learning, and maybe, just maybe, coming to terms with what it means to be human, even if you can no longer be human in the way you once were. So, what do you think? Would you take immortality if it meant becoming just a floating head? Or would you pass on forever if that's what it took? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you've ever wondered what other weird possibilities the future might hold, don't forget to subscribe and stay curious. After all, there's no telling what life would be like if we never had to say goodbye, or if we just got really good at levitating heads.